these were people who were not afraid of something new. People get afraid of change so much that they think the world is going to come to an end.
Hello and welcome to this podcast conversation of the Epic Kate Show. This wonderful conversation is with Diane Steinberg Lewis. What an amazing woman. This conversation is about her mother, Martha Jean the Queen, a mighty woman who raised people black and white through the radio. It's about a family that had a young Elvis Presley always hanging around, about B.B. King and his first radio appearance. It's about people who dared to make the world better. I'm so honored to have such incredible conversations. It makes my heart feel so good to be a part of this and to have this beautiful channel and this even more beautiful community. On this channel, I share vlogs and conversations with incredibly epic people. I learn and I grow and I laugh and I cry with these people who help me to grow and to be a better person. I hope you'll join this community and share this life with me. Welcome to the Epic Kate Show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. We'll have a really good time this afternoon. Oh, it's 11 o'clock my time, 8 o'clock p.m. your time.
Yep.
Oh, so I'm ready to go. I'm perked up, and here's my cup of coffee.
Oh, great. I asked your husband yesterday, what should I talk to you about? Like, I don't want to miss anything special. And he said, ask her to talk about Martha Jean the Queen, your mama, and the history, her being like you, the story of how you are basically the princess of rock and roll as we know it.
This is really funny. When my mom died, when my mother passed in 2000, we were trying to save the radio station. I have two sisters, and she was doing the radio. When you have the microphone, it's such a golden, precious, important thing. My mother is a pioneer in radio in several ways. When women were on the radio in the old days during the 40s, they would give recipes and, Miss Manners to tell people how to do the plates and the cups and, all that stuff. You know what I'm talking about. And my mother, when she went on radio, she was not only a woman who decided and told them when they gave her a homemaker show, I don't know how to cook. Don't give me a homemaker show. So she had that show in a short period of time. And then they started calling her Princess Premium Stuff and all this, because the DJs in those days many of them came from vaudeville. You had to have patterns. So many of them were speakers or comedians or professors or journalists, And but if you were going to have a really good show, you had to be an entertainer. So that was in my mother's blood, as it is in our whole family. But when she came on, she had that gift of communicating and using humor, and she learned from the old guys too. But she was one of the first women in radio, and in WDIA in Memphis, Tennessee, it became the first radio station that Bert Ferguson and David James and Christine Spindell in Memphis, Tennessee, three white people. And of course, we have to say white because when you talk about the times, I don't want to give you the impression that this station that became a Black program station or African-American, however you could take it in Sweden, it was the first Black station to play music for a base of people that were not served. And as you know, when you find something that serves people, that is what is going to make you the $1 million. The invention that solves a problem. And that was needed. And this man, Bert Ferguson, decided in the time of the 40s, during the Truman time, and when KKK was going crazy down there and everything, that he was going to make this change. Can you imagine? And I asked Christine Spindell, I said, so when you put the first Black person on radio who was Nat D. Williams. I said, what happened? She went, oh my God. She said, we had talked about it for months and finally he was there. And I was so excited. And I'm thinking, use the South. I don't know. See, you guys don't go through any of this in Sweden, do you? I'm going to move there. But anyway, but in those days, you would wonder why a white woman in the South would be so excited about this dynamic, dangerous change. And she told me a story about her father, who, and the fact that her mother and her two aunties were strong women. And the two aunties, I don't know if they ever got married or they got married late, but they were career-oriented, strong women. And so they taught her to be that way. And her father was a champion of doing good things in his community and regarding people with a more human respect, you know. So she said there were two little Black girls passing by, and because she went to school with kids at her school, they started teasing the two little Black girls and calling them pickaninnies and all kinds of names. And so because she was in the second or third grade, then she kind of chimed in, you know, and did the same thing. And her father took her and said, let me tell you something. These people have enough to go through in their lives for you to do that, and you're never to do that again. And she never did. So when time passes and now she's this adult person, and Bert Ferguson sees how well they need a girl Friday, which actually ended up doing everything at the radio station, but they brought her in. And then because the station was doing poorly, they were playing classical music, live symphony classical music every afternoon. And then after that, they had the crop reports and the weather, you know, because people had farms and stuff out there, you know, so they had that. So they said, we're having an issue here. So they went to one of those radio conventions, you know, you go and you compare notes and see how everybody's doing. And so here was Bert Ferguson, this white man, saying to Christine Spindell, while the rest of the engineers and everybody was in the back having gone to the convention. And they're driving back to Memphis, and he goes, I'm thinking about putting, at that time, they would say a colored person on the radio. And she went, he said, I'm going to do this. Now I'm imitating what she said in that interview. If I knew we were going to talk about this today, I would have had it, roll the tape, Kate, you know, but but then she said, and it took him months because they were trying to wait for the right time. And she said, finally, this guy came. He was a professor at one of the high schools. And he came in, and I thought they're going to put it off again. And, you know, they had those big mics, you know, that sat in front of you. In fact, do I have my book here? Phooey, I don't want to leave. I would have held it up. It's called Wheeling on Beale, like Beale Street. And it has a picture of Nat D. Williams on the day that he was about to speak. And Christine Spindell was so upset, and he sat down, and then she took the microphone, and from the other side of the room, she went to the desk, took the microphone, and she plopped it down. And it startled Nat D. Williams, so he started laughing, and he had this very particular laugh. And it rang all over Memphis, and everybody in Memphis went, who's that? And then he started to talk. So these three decided they would change format, and they did. And they told me that the old people that used to work there or who knew the co-owner that was with Bert Ferguson then, they said they were scared because they were all parading out, all the people, the Ku Kluxers and everything, parading out front. This is in the 40s. And I said, well, where were you? And she went, we were hiding in the back. Now, she said, you don't understand. Down in Memphis, down there during that time, if you were a white person and you did anything promoting or helping Black people, they would take you and drag you out of your car. And they would, your children and everybody else. So I love my country, but we are revisiting things that need to be, they need to be acknowledged and they need to be taught, because if you don't hear what happened, you would by all purposes think it never happened or somebody was making it up. And we have a ways to go in that area, but this is where my mother comes in. So my mother was not the first woman who auditioned for this contest, because they needed another woman, because the woman who was on the Homemaker Show was having ill health. So they got a lady, her name was Versia Starr, Starr, McKinney. And her husband was a preacher and didn't want her being on the radio. So he took her to Chicago. So they said, call that pretty woman, the young woman that came. And I asked Christine Spindell, I said, so when my mother auditioned that day, she said, I didn't stay long after that, but the day she auditioned, she came up to me because there were a line of people and she said, I'm going to be somebody. I said, she said that? She went, yeah. She said, I'm going to be somebody. And I went, well, okay. And she went on to make her statement, refusing to do the Homemaker Show. She was not going to be called Princess Premium stuff anymore. I mean, we can get into why that princess came in, but I'm going to keep going. And then she said, I'm not going to answer to that. So come up with something else. Rhyme, I don't care. So they went Martha Jean, and she looked at the engineer and she went, and then he said, the Queen, and he rhymed it. And she went, well, she accepted it. And she accepted it even further. And she put it under and she said, yes, I am the Queen. So there you go. And so she was the first African-American woman to own her own standalone AM radio station in the nation. So we're getting busy with a documentary about her. We're right in the throes of sealing the deal one way or the other. There's a couple of things we have to work out. You have to work stuff out with family, or or you get into it and it's a mess and they go, get out of here, So we're almost there. But one way or the other, it's going to get done. Bless you. And if it hadn't been for her, there would not have been a path for Oprah Winfrey and a lot of the females that came about to then own their own radio stations. So, and I remember my mother one day on the radio, I had my daughter up, we were visiting and I just watched her, I watched her as she was on the air and she got a call and they said, Queen, how did you get your name? She went, I've told you all this story a million times, but I'm going to tell you again. Look, when you were down south, Black people didn't have anything. But what they did have, what could come out of themselves, it's just like instruments, I mean, I'm improving now. It's like instruments, Kate. It's like what did the Native Americans or natives of any country have but the shells or the rattlesnake rattle or the things in nature? And we have always made music. We've always danced. We've always celebrated. We've always grieved. And it's always been a sound associated with that, an organized sound that we call music. And music is not constant sound. It's an organization of sound and silence. And the music is in the silence as well. And so the beauty of freedom is and self-realization is not only in what you do, it's also in what you don't do. How you speak, how you listen. This is how we make music in our spirit, in our lives. And my mother kind of got onto that. And so she was right to the point, very matter of fact. And she said, we had nothing, but what we made of ourselves was to name ourselves. So we became Count Basie and Duke Ellington and the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, she's from Detroit, and the Empress of the Blues, and, Lady like Billie Holiday, so they gave themselves royal names. And when you speak the name that you see yourself as, you speak that name and you claim it, you become that in your spirit. So it's very important what you name your kids, what you call yourself, or what you let other people call you. Now, I've said it. That's my mom, Martha Jean, the Queen of Detroit, who was on radio from 1953 to 2000.
Wow, that's amazing.
She passed in 2000.
We've said so many times there is no need for anybody to look for one leader that's going to come up here and stand up and have the people and tell them what to do. We all got to use our minds and be on one accord.
After a while being in radio and entertainment, because of the words of counsel and inspiration that she imparted, people always wanted to talk to her about their problems. Mm-hmm. So she began to talk to them on the radio and play songs and dedicate. That's what DJs did. I mean, I don't know if you remember, or you're kind of young, but in the old days, you would call into the radio station and dedicate a song to somebody before you went to school or whatever. I'm kind of missing that. Call the DJ, dedicate a song. I used to find out a lot of gossip just by listening to the DJ in the morning, that Carolyn just dedicated a song to Randy at that school. I know them. So anyway. And then, of course, my dad was in music, and that's orchestra, jazz, and my Uncle Louis, my dad's younger brother, became the founding member of Booker T and the MGs and bass player, and he co-wrote Green Onions. So that would have been Steve Cropper, Booker T. Jones, Al Jackson, and Louis Steinberg. So he was there for 2 albums worth during the Stax years in Memphis. So,
what was your family connection to the Newborns?
The Newborns. My dad grew up with Phineas Newborn Jr. And because their family was a music family, and Phineas Newborn, we called him Finus, not Phineas. I mean, some of the jazz people call him Phineas, but everybody in Memphis called him Finus. So he was a genius. And my dad used to so they were a jazz family, and the dad, who was a drummer, came up with a beat that everybody started using, which was a transition from the jazz to the boogie woogie to the rock and roll, and everybody just got onto that beat. I don't look, I play piano, not the drums, so but anyway, so they would play in each other's bands. Phineas used to play piano. He was like a prodigy, and he was about 14 years old or 15 when they all start playing together. And then he played in my dad's orchestra until he started doing his own albums. And he is in the jazz history books. But Dad used to also do another thing. He would make me jealous of Phineas. You know me. I told you about the girl that said, Donna Summers, you're not going to get it. Well, way back then, my dad went. Phineas played Rhapsody in Blue when he was 13. So I'd go, okay, so you're not going to play it. So every year, but when I was 9 years old, my dad would bring me the simple version of Rhapsody in Blue, and then the next intermediate, and then I worked my way up. And then by the time I was like 17, I was supposed to play Rhapsody in Blue with the Detroit Symphony. I got boy crazy and it all went to hell. So there you go.
It's ruining everything.
Men, love, puppy love. I hope I'm not boring you.
Oh, no, not at all. So,
I talk too much.
So Phineas was your rival, and Calvin, is it pronounced, or is it Calvin? My handwriting's bad.
Elvis Newborn was Phineas's brother. He played guitar. He's the one that just jump up in the air and do all those things on in the guitar that his friend Elvis used to copy.
Did he train Elvis? Did he didn't he mentor Elvis?
Well, yeah, in that Elvis used to hang around. Elvis opened up for my dad several times, and Sam Phillips managed, went in and recorded my dad. And my dad was, in his mind, to be the white man with the black sound. But see, that was when Boogie Woogie was starting. It was right on the edge, big band stuff. And they went in the studio, and Phineas even played the piano and that boogie woogie stuff. But Sam Phillips discovered Elvis. He was hanging around all the jazz and blues guys down there on Beale Street, the way they dressed. He even went down to the Peabody, not the Peabody Hotel, although he did go there, but he would go with the Lansky brothers. The Lansky brothers, and they're still there in the Peabody Hotel in Memphis. You guys, if you ever go there, you want to see the elevator come down, and when the doors open, out comes a person with a bunch of ducks following them, and they get to walk in a straight line and go into the big fountain in the foyer, and swim. And then when they're done, they march back and they get back on the elevator. Okay, that's the Peabody Hotel. But anyway, so Elvis would go down to Lansky Brothers, which again is still in the Peabody Hotel, okay, today. And he would get all of his suits and things because the guys down there in rockabilly or whatever they were doing, they weren't dressing like that. But when Elvis started dressing like that, I mean, he was on the Ed Sullivan show with a nice suit. He had to get them to give him a $125 jacket. In those days, that was really expensive for a jacket. And they set him up until he got his first paycheck. So, but he kind of sucked in, fed on, I guess people started talking about gentrification and all that stuff, nowadays, but he was very much influenced by what he saw all of them doing. My dad, Luther Steinberg, whose name was changed to Lou Sargent, because, that Steinberg was not going to work down, down south. But anyway, so Lou Sargent, and then changed my uncle's name to Les Mitchell, my Uncle Wilbur, because he was the singer in the group. And they came out with a hit, a boogie woogie oh my God, where's Kenny? Okay, so they came out with a hit, and it was a pretty good song for the Mid-South. And they toured, and Dad said, because he was a jazz person, jazz people really, they put up with rock and roll, but that's not their thing, they're on this other level. So in fact, B.B. King, King of the Blues, was a good friend of the family. And there was a point in his career that, and also, he was one of the first people on WDIA right before my mother went on. He came in. He was going through Mississippi or something, and somebody said, "Hey, BB, there's a station. There's a college station that's going to be down there, and you might go down there and play." So he took his guitar, Lucille, and he was in the rain, and Christine Spindell says he walked and covered, and we didn't know, we had never really heard the blues. I mean, they heard it, but it wasn't their cup of tea, but they didn't understand what, and they said, well, come in, because they were looking for acts. And they got him an amp, brought it in the studio, and he played, and then he talked a little bit, and she said, we thought this sound was like, oh my God, what is this? These were people who were not afraid of something new. People get afraid of change so much that they think the world is going to come to an end, that that's when religion comes in, because, you're going to get zapped by God if you talk about wiggling your hips. But of course, when Elvis wiggled his,
They freaked out, though.
his eyes opened up, huh?
They did freak out. They did censor him. They did think he was absolutely disgusting in the beginning.
Yeah, that beginning went by real fast, didn't it? Yeah, Ed Sullivan, yes, we're going to tape him from the waist up. But honey, they knew what was going on. Waist up. Okay.
I know the filmmaker who recorded a concert of B.B. King at a prison in New York. And it's amazing. David Hoffman.
Well, he should be sharing that with the world.
Oh yeah, totally. You should check out his YouTube channel. I'm getting emotional while you're talking about things because I've discovered so much history on his channel that just opened up my eyes, because I grew up in the 90s and we were taught such a whitewashed history. And when I watched some of David's videos and saw about how rock and roll opened the doors for desegregation, it brought so much meaning to so many things. And it's like, when I used to work, you're going to think this is hilarious. In Sweden, I used to work at a 1950s rock and roll themed restaurant.
Wow. What was it called? Johnny Rockets?
It's called Mel's Diner.
Oh, are you kidding?
The owner,
I love Mel's.
The owner is a Greek guy who loves the original and named it after the original. And even he went to California and got the signature of the original owner of Mel's Diner, put it on the wall.
Well, see, when I came out to Hollywood, Mel's, that was the place. I mean, are you kidding? Oh my God.
You got to come visit us, and I can take you to Mel's and you can get a burger and a milkshake. It's amazing.
I got to lose 50 pounds first. That's okay. I'll sacrifice myself for that.
It's worth it. But it's just so meaningful. This history that music opened the door, that people, you talking about people hearing this music and getting connected to a people that they weren't allowed to be connected to before. It just breaks my heart. Like, I just want to go and cry for a while. Like, why is the world still so messed up? Why do people make such a big deal about race relations and saying, oh, it's in the past. Like, no, we need to talk about it. We need to listen to people's experiences and make the world better.
Yeah, turn on the news. And I mean, are we allowed to talk about politics on
We're
this?
allowed to talk about whatever we want. It's my YouTube channel.
We're gonna have to meet like once a month.
I would love that. Oh my goodness.
But that's only if your followers think that it's worth it. They might look
Here's
at
what they think. I want to do it.
This is a good place to take a little break and share some fun little outtakey kind of moments with you. We'll get back to the main conversation really quick, don't worry.
See, Kenny is asking me to move my, thank you. You're going to be on my show with the.
I love you guys. Will you adopt me?
And don't come back in, no. Kate Barjavid.
Oh, so close. It's Biargvida.
Biargvida. Okay.
Okay, let's go back to the conversation.
I got breast cancer about 3 years ago, and it was early. Got it early, everybody.
Oh, thank
Had a little
God.
lumpectomy, and you got it early, so I'm good. But I remember right when that was coming on, I was looking at television, and the things that I was hearing coming out of our then president, I you know, when you start hearing things and you go, huh? And then you go, huh? And you go, no. And then the other thing I thought, and I agree with something that Barbara Streisand said, she went, you guys on the news, quit giving him free publicity. He got so much free publicity because everybody was going, turn on the news. I want to hear what he said today. So there's something that we have to do, because I became so, you become enthralled, because you get pulled in, and then you get curious. It's like watching a horror show or going into the fun house or the roller coaster or something. And then you're in this adrenaline rush, because you're going, no, you're appalled. And I remember sitting in my lounge chair in the front room for hours, because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I forgot that I needed to guard myself. This was coming into me. And I think when you get to the point where now you're like this, taking it in, your adrenalines are going, you're at a high pitch, you're not doing yourself a healthy, good thing. The best thing you can do is get up and become an agent for change. And that means you have to be active and get your arse out of the chair and take, not wear your heart on your sleeve, but get your oomph there to say, oh yeah, like I've done several times in my life. Oh yeah, okay, we'll see about that. And become an agent for good.
Yes.
Now,
Yes, I'm so with you. Like on my channel, I've had amazing conversations with people from all kinds of walks of life about like white privilege, about growing up Black in the 1970s. A wonderful lady named Miss Andrea. I've had her on my channel like 3 times now. I love her so much. She's just great, and just it's been so powerful for me to learn, and I want other people to grow with me and learn with me. And I've gotten amazing comments of people saying, wow, I never knew that. Thanks for sharing this.
Yeah, I've known, when I think that through the years, I've known B.B. King since I was 10 years old. If I had known, and I'm not getting off the topic here, but uh, I've known him since 10, and I have met him at different points in my life, and I have pictures every time I saw him again. And I remember my mother was visiting. She had to. It was the 50th anniversary of WDIA, so she went to Memphis, and I have a picture of her and Rufus Thomas and BB King at WDIA. I'm going to send you all those pictures, okay? I don't know. I'm crying already. So anyway, my mother was walking down Beale Street. Now you got to understand, Beale Street in the day that she lived there, and then after the riots. I mean, during the 60s, because it happened through Detroit, then, all over the country, because especially after Martin Luther King got shot. So people were at their wits' end about the civil rights and stuff. But she went down for the 50th anniversary. Now, this is past 67 now, and it's in the 90s. And she's walking down Beale Street, and she sees a new place called BB's, BB King's restaurant, they were starting to have come all over. And so she went in, and they were filming a documentary on him. And he stopped the whole documentary. He said he always called her Martha. Now, my mother the family used to call her Jean. There's a persona about Jean, and then there's the persona about Martha Jean. There's Martha, and then there's Martha Jean the Queen, and then there's the Queen. And at one point she was just going to get her driver's license changed to Queen, just like Cher, Beyonce, whatever. But she passed before that happened. But anyway, so she's walking down Beale Street, and so she goes in. He stops the whole thing. He says, "No, Martha." And he had a crush on my mom. In fact, the last time I saw him, right before he died in Vina Robles, he opened up for Peter Frampton, and I was backstage with everybody. And he said to me, I'll send you these pictures too, because on the bus, they said, "You can't take pictures of BB." And he was signing pictures of me and my sisters with him backstage at WDIA's Goodwill Review in 1959 or 60. And there's me and my two sisters and him in this white suit signing an autograph, which I never kept. Okay, kids are stupid with that. So, but anyway, and they said, "You can't do," and he goes, "Stop. This is family." He says, "Take all the pictures you want." We did. And I'll send you, you're going to have like a whole album's worth of pictures. And you can share them with your friends, but tell them it's all rights reserved. Okay, so anyway. My mom said that they sat and they talked for a while. Excuse me, I got to go back into the trailer backstage at the Vina Robles. He's signing the autograph, and he goes, "Your mom married that trumpet player, didn't she?" Talking about my dad, who ended up doing arrangements for him at Club Paradise in Memphis before he did got this whole BB King, restaurant stuff set up. Now we're back at BB's. So he's sitting and talking to my mother, and he goes, "Martha, this company in Japan, they wanted to, what do they call it when you have like a McDonald's here and a McDonald's franchise. They said, and they got me all over the world. I have made more money with my club and what they're doing than I ever did in my whole life." And when you start to think about those blues people, Howlin' Wolf, I mean, all of them, Powell, all of them, they didn't make a lot of money. We know who they are, but you wonder, okay, their legacy is left. Who's making money on that legacy? I would think at some point, I'm going to put it out there, gang. At some point, when your legacy people have enriched you publishers so much, okay, pay your taxes, tithe to your church or synagogue or whatever. But you need to set up a fund for that family, or set up a place of education in the communities that need to know, and give them their just due. And you can praise somebody all day long, but if you don't give them some proper monetization to feed their families and to honor their people who gave us these gifts, you think that's fair? Do you think?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I said my thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love to hear people talk about what they believe in, and I'm so thankful for this time, and I'm so thankful for this opportunity to talk to you, and I would gladly do it as often as you would let me.
Well, we don't. First of all, you have to get feedback from your people.
No, I don't.
To know
I
if
don't
they
have to.
enjoyed this or not.
Because listen, I don't make any money from this. I am like on YouTube, it's this whole thing. You have to have 1,000 subscribers. I'm 200 odd stuff away from that to even apply, and 4,000 watch hours, and I'm a quarter of the way there. So I'm doing this because I love it, not because anybody's expecting to make any money off of me either.
You know something, there's something to be said about doing something for a labor of love.
Yeah.
Because things in the right place, you're going to be blessed. I prophesied to the north, south, east, and west that prosperity will come on you. You'll have to push it down and it'll be running over, and you'll go, what am I going to do with all this attention? Okay, my religious people out there, they know what I'm talking about too. So thank you, Kate. And I'm sending a blessing to Elaine Shapiro. And I'm not going to send out any curses to the publishers. I'm blessing them too, because the more they have to give, the more is expected of you to put that right where it really matters. Now is the time.
Yeah.
No better time.
Well, thank you so much for taking this time. So the way that I end my conversations is I give hugs.
Okay, I'm hugging you.
Thank you.
Give kisses to the girls for me.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
And there will be so many things, but we will stand still long enough to know that what we give out, we get back.